In September 1973, the Chilean military, led by General Augusto Pinochet, staged a coup to wrestle power from President Salvador Allende. By that time, the Chilean economy was in shambles. Socialist government economic policies weren't the only problem. In addition to unjust expropriations, freedom of the press was under attack. And Cuba and the Soviet Union were shipping large amounts of military equipment to be used to consolidate socialism by force. Pinochet's new government turned to the Chicago Boys for answers.
In September 1973, when the coup happened, a few days later, I was summoned by Admiral Merino, and I went to the Ministry of Defense and waited for him for about 2 hours. And suddenly he came in abruptly, opened the door, and he said, "I am Admiral Merino, and you are going to be the advisor to the Minister of Economics who is coming." And he left. I didn't have time to say yes or no.
What's surprising is, I know they told you that when Sergio de Castro was asked to come in to help the military government in the first years after the coup, he managed to take 80 people with him at lousy salaries. 80 ex-students to move into government and into very key places to start the economic revolution.
The military on the whole were pretty good, and they took advice. They got rid of nearly all the price controls. Maybe they were left with 5 or 6 instead of 3,000. They straightened out the exchange rate, and there was something of a fiscal reform, but they didn't manage the inflation.
In those years, Chile's economy began slowly to improve, but with such high inflation, only so much could be done. It wasn't until 1975 that the Chicago Boys implemented more drastic and powerful reforms to curb inflation.
So in 1975, added upon the problems that we had came the oil crisis. And prices of oil went to 3 or 4 times the prices they had before, and this meant a big crisis in the world, the 75 crisis. As a consequence of that, there was a change in the authorities. The civilians who had been at the heart of the economic program became not advisors, but executive officers, let's say, in the economic program.
In 1975, the Chicago Boys became Chile's economic reformers. The next stage of transformation was about to begin.
At that time, the economic program was really in action. Tariffs were 10%, the budget had a surplus. We had also a rate of growth which was very high, and in '82 we had the big crisis, the debt crisis, and the debt crisis was called the lost decade for Latin America. But in Chile, the crisis was for 2 years.
The debt crisis of 1982 largely proved the success of the Chicago Boys' economic plan. While other countries lost a decade of growth, Chile recovered quickly.
So we had a lot of growth, and the program was really validated.
Today, Chile is still considered one of the most developed countries in Latin America.